This is If My People Bible reading part 187, the book of First Corinthians. We are in chapter 8, and there are a number of Torah instructions, basic daily Torah instructions that Paul is now giving to us and to them, and we should follow the same instructions. Chapter 8 has talks about food sacrificed to idols. They had a lot. They had marketplaces in those days, and they would have all kinds of false. This is Corinth, so there's a lot of false everything going on, and some people would sacrifice animals, and then after they sacrificed it, they would sell it. Anything to make a buck. It's kind of like running a church today, and everything you do somehow is about making money. There's not much difference today than all the false religions in those days. How interesting. And so he's just letting you know this in a nutshell through the entire book of Corinthians. If you know something's sacrificed and someone prays over it to some false god, in those days, don't eat it. Later on, it talks about in the other chapters that when you go to someone's house and eat, don't say anything about the food. Just sit down and eat it and enjoy it. Now, he's not talking about eating non-kosher foods. He's not talking about eating anything. If you know Paul and you've read Paul, you know he doesn't break Torah. So he's not talking about eating pig, eating bacon, eating crustaceans, eating anything that filters, eating lobster, eating shrimp, eating catfish, eating bottom feeders, eating things in the ocean that filter and keep the earth clean. One of the first commandments in the Garden of Eden was for Adam and Eve to take care of the garden. Today, it's our responsibility to be responsible people. Same thing. Nothing has changed. So he just says to be careful. That's verse 9 in chapter 8. Be careful, however, that the exercise of your freedom does not become a stumbling block to the weak. Let's say, let's today, you smoke cigarettes. You have a smoking habit. You don't get up in front of the pulpit. You don't get called in as a believer in Yeshua, and then stand up there and fire up cigarettes and start smoking it, or take a cigar. Taking a bottle of whiskey with you on the pulpit and start drinking from it, slugging it down. If you do something that someone's from looking back, they can't hear what you're saying, they don't know you, but they see what you're doing. Don't be a bad example. Be an example to what did Yeshua ever slug whiskey down? Did Yeshua ever drink a lot of wine till he got drunk? Did he smoke anything? Did he do anything? Did he eat anything that was non-kosher? No, he did not. Then why should you? You're not free from that today. You have not been freed from that. Some of the everlasting Torah instructions were given before Moses wrote them down to the patriarchs. It mentions things like, you might get confused, chapter 9, verse 9. For it is written in the Torah of Moses, do not muzzle an ox while it is treading out the grain. It is about oxen that Elohim is concerned. It's about the oxen. If someone's going to do something in a Elohimly way for you, don't drive them into the ground. Treat them with respect. If someone wants to come over there and you're, let's see, you're what? Verse 14 says, in the same way, Master has commanded that those who preach the good news should receive their living from the good news. So if someone today is a full-time minister, that minister should not take over advantage of people and harm them because they feel like they want to do it for you. They come over, they paint your house, they do this, they do that, they fix this, they fix that, and they can't make a living on being free, but you think it's okay because they're doing it for the love, because you're a pastor. No, if you receive pay, you need to earn it. You need to earn your pay too. So, chapter 10, Verse 1, For I do not want you to be ignorant of the fact, brothers, that our forefathers were all under the cloud, and that they passed through the sea. They were baptized into Moses in the cloud and in the sea. They all ate the same spiritual food. They drank the same drink. They drank from the spiritual rock that accompanied them, and that rock was Messiah. Verse 7, Do not be idolaters, as some of them were. As is written, the people sat down to eat and drink and got up to indulge in pagan revelry. We should not commit sexual immorality, as some of them did, and in one day 23,000 of them died. We should not test Messiah, verse 9, as some of them did and were killed by snakes. Verse 10, And do not humble, as some of them did and were killed by the destroying messenger. Verse 14, Therefore, my friends, flee from idolatry, all Torah. Today, how do we apply that? You are to be in one accord. We shouldn't have 30,000 church denominations with 30,000 opinions. And it is something that if you're going to call yourself holy, then be holy. Be holy, W-H-O-L-E, holy, all of you. It's not something you do and you're a closet alcoholic after being a minister. It doesn't work. You can't serve two masters at one time. You will be one or you will be the other, but you can't do both. That's what that's saying. Very just all these things that Paul says, he gets it directly from Yeshua, directly from the Father. They're all Torah instructions. I was talking about, where were we at here? Chapter 10, verse 27, another Torah command. If some unbeliever invites you to a meal and you want to go, eat whatever is put before you without raising any questions. That doesn't mean you eat something that, if you go over there and it's pig and you're not supposed to eat pig, then just be kind and eat a loaf of bread or something. Drink some tea. And if they ask you, say, don't you want to eat? I said, I'm sorry, I love you guys very much, but I can't. I got to eat what's kosher. And then they'll ask, well, what is kosher? There's your door of opportunity right there. A pig. And the way I do it these days, I don't say because God said, nobody accepts. Nobody accepts God these days. They'll accept this, which is very Elohimly. I can't eat anything that filters and cleans this good earth because pigs are fantastic for keeping the earth clean. That's what they do. They eat anything and they keep it clean. So I can't eat them because they keep the earth clean. I don't eat things that bottom feed in streams and lakes and rivers because catfish and other bottom feeders, those with their mouths that point down, they eat things off the bottom that are dead and they keep the stream clean and drinkable. And I can't eat anything from the ocean estuaries where they come out from the hillsides. They go down to the ocean, and everything that lives around there is crustaceous and sucks and has little feelers and keeps everything clean, like clams, like ocean fish that eat from the bottom, like krill. Krill does the same thing. Tiny little krill, that whales. So do I eat whale? No. No, because they eat krill. Okay. And I don't eat lobster. I don't eat crawfish. I don't eat anything like that because it's keeping this. I like to keep everything clean. You got them. How can they argue with you? They're the very ones who would put the earth and dogs above children, babies, and they'll do abortion, and they'll approve that, and yet they'll pay for a PETA and all this other stuff to take care of animals, and they purchase animals, and then they lock them in their apartments at night, and they make them sit there for 8 to 10 to 15 hours before you can take them out to the bathroom at night. And the dogs and cats live in literally dogs that love to run. They keep them in small apartments. Isn't that treating animals so kind? Don't you just love people who do that? And they just love animals and they hate people and they love abortion, but they're the first ones to lock a down animal. So what happens to an animal when they get older? They have urinary tract problems. I wonder why. They tear up the house sometimes because they want to run. And then you take them out for 10 minutes at night, let them go to the bathroom, and then you lock them back in the house, and then the next day you go to work, and you love your animals. You love your animals because an animal will do, especially a dog, anything for you, and will forgive you for anything. And you know humans don't because you don't. You don't forgive your own parents. You don't forgive your own loved ones as much as you forgive a dog. You wonder why people have dogs these days and don't have children? As far as I'm concerned, don't have children. If that's your attitude and you're going to bring up children like that, making up your rules as you go along, you make up rules because you have no Yahweh. You have no one to sit there, and at least people like us, we have, it says, well, it says here in the Word, and I must follow that. What do they follow? They follow whatever's in their heart, whatever comes up in their head. And then whatever they say, it's got to be true. And then they hate you. They hate you for hating someone like Yahweh. They hate you for even bringing up the name Yeshua, Jesus. They hate you. And they can't stand you. If they don't believe in God, if they don't believe in Yeshua, what is the problem? If you're just a fantasy person, just like you're psychotic or something, just leave me alone. I'm psychotic. Who cares? Leave me alone. Go away. See you later. You're not the Father's seed, and there's nothing I can do to convince you. You're just not going to change. See ya. Let's see. Where are we at now? Oh, okay. Chapter 11. How are we doing on time? So whether you eat or drink, whatever you do, do it all in the glory of Elohim. Do not cause anyone to stumble, whether Jews, Greeks, or an assembly of Yahweh. They called themselves the assembly of Yahweh. They didn't call themselves any other church name. Notice that. Every man who prays or prophesies with his head covered, this is verse 4, chapter 11, with his head covered dishonors his head. So do I say to my brothers and sisters who I appreciate, a lot of Jewish people, I love them. They wear kippahs all the time. What did it just say you're not supposed to be doing? And what does it say in the Old Testament about putting on head covering and when to have it off? Just saying. And every woman who prays or prophesies with her head uncovered dishonors her head. It is just as though her head were shaved. The women who were caught in adultery in those days had their head shaved. And when a woman wants to get married these days, the hair looks mighty fine. Sometimes when they get married, after a number of years, the hair just starts shrinking down, getting smaller. They don't want to take care of it. Think about why people do what they do and why that hair is being brought up by Paul for both men and women. So do I wear a kippah? No, because I respect other Jewish people. Do I believe in what they believe? No, because they believe that God has abandoned them, that Yeshua is non-existent, and he was just fake, and that there is no Ruach and there is no devil. There is no Hasatan. So, the basic, do I have anything to do with them? No. Do I respect them? Sure. I'm hoping they get jealous one day, but right there, and then, well, that's in the new covenant. They don't read that. Read the old covenant. Where do you think Paul got this from? Goodness sakes, man alive. Verse 28, still in chapter 11. A man ought to examine himself before he eats the bread and drinks of the cup. What are we talking about there? When you go to someone's house, and the first thing you do is start looking for food when you get there, and you're there to talk about Yeshua or the Father or the Bible or do apologetics or something? No, don't go to people's house like that. We held those for years in our house, and the people that come that ate the most brought the least, even though they had the money and the finances to do it. They came in there and each had a house and home, and they love going to your house, and they never invite us to their house. Don't do that. It's just hard to get along with people like that. And when you go to communion service, and when you do Passover, don't come starving to death. Don't do that. Come with a full stomach. And if you spend time more than you should later on, the food will be there and available. That's what loving and giving is all about. In Yeshua's name. Shalom.